What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Spring Cup with Shadow Barrel, Pumpkaboo and Shadow Palkia. Now this is a sort of an ABA style team with a water in the lead and a water in the back. However, the two water types actually don't share any weaknesses. My thinking behind Barrel was that there are a lot of Astonish users in this meta which go largely unresisted, so having a sub-normal type would really help out, but actually every single Astonish user that I faced was in the back, so it didn't really work out the way I wanted it to, but I did still go positive with this team, which shows that it can hold its own in this meta. With that being said, let's just get straight into the question of the day. In your opinion, have there ever been any limited metas featuring 3 or less typings that were actually enjoyable to play in for the full 2-week rotation? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Shadow Barrel into Credilli, so not really an ideal matchup for me. However, I'm pretty sure Credilli is just going to go straight for a Rock Tomb, so I will win CMP with my Shadow Barrel, going straight for the Surf. Surf, going to be no-shielded. At this point, I'm happy to just let this move go through. The opponent is going to bait with the Rock Tomb, so I'm going to swap out, clear the debuff, come in with my Pumpkaboo, and I get a 0-turn swap, which means I am able to reach a foul play on the CMP type, winning CMP once again, and the opponent just lets Credilli go down. They now come in with an Air/Tropius, which is definitely not ideal for me, but I will farm up, throw on the potential CMP type with an Aerial Ace. The opponent does hold on to the energy, they overfarm, and they throw a charge move just before I reach a second foul play. At this point, Aerial Ace does take out the Pumpkaboo. We are going to wait out the switch clock before coming in with our Shadow Palkia. If I come in with the Barrel, they can probably actually just go for a full Air/farm down. So we come in with a Palkia, the opponent fires off the Leaf Blade before swapping into a Jellicent. Now, of course, Jellicent probably going to be going for a Surf bait here, but either way, despite the fact that it's double resisted, I kind of need to shield in this matchup. Even these Hexes are doing big damage, but speaking of big damage, these Dragon Breaths are seriously chunking. I can reach a second Aqua Tail here. An Aqua Tail probably doesn't quite get the KO from this range, but I can swap out into the Barrel, catch the next Surf there, and now it just depends. Can Shadow Palkia go for a full Dragon Breath farm down? We take out the Tropius, and I'm able to Dragon Breath farm down the Jellicent, just barely hanging on with 1 HP and a Dream, and I'm able to take that game. Into next battle, and another Credilli in the lead. So once again, going to play this out exactly the same here. And again, going straight for the Surf, winning CMP. Surf is going to be shielded this time around, but either way, I'm happy to let the move go through. If the opponent does full send a Grass Knot, then fair play, but they don't. Again, they bait there. Credilli users just addicted to going for that Rock Tomb. I actually don't know if they're aware that Grass Knot is super effective up against the Barrel. They should definitely just go for that. But either way, happy to let the move go through here, as the opponent does go for a Rock Tomb once again before swapping into Livani. Now at this point, they're going to fire off a charge move straight away. I don't mind this. The opponent goes for Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade gets the KO. I was debuffed, so a foul play wouldn't have done much damage anyways, and I honestly prefer that they throw there rather than just going for a full Shadow Claw farm down. At this point, we come in with the Barrel. We force them to throw once again. I'm hoping Shadow Palkia can come in and Dragon Breath farm them all the way down, but no, just barely not able to do so. So at this point, I'm going to shield up the Leaf Blade there. The opponent swaps back into their Credilli, and at this point, I'm going to fire off an Aqua Tail. I don't really want them to debuff my attack. However, I assume the opponent is just going to shield there and make sure they can permanently debuff my Shadow Palkia, but Shadow Palkia still hits like an absolute truck. So I use my final shield, we get the Dragon Breath farm down, they come in with a Jellicent, and I'm going straight for Draco Meteor. This Shadow Palkia is debuffed, but it just doesn't matter. Draco Meteor gets the one shot, 2 more Dragon Breaths, takes out Livani, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there. Into next battle, we see Livani in the lead this time around. They're going to say swap into Dedenne, and I'm going to respond with my Pumpkaboo. Now, of course, the opponent could be running Play Rough, should be running Play Rough, but I'm going to no-shield the first move anyways. They've got resisted fast move pressure, so I'm going to go for 1 Astonish, fire off the Grass Knot, throwing on good timing, but I'm actually going to undercharge this to get off 1 extra Astonish. Now, the opponent comes back in with Livani, and because of that undercharge, I'm now able to reach a last-second foul play. Foul play going to be shielded by the opponent, as they can go for a full Shadow Claw farm down. Now, I make a bit of a mistake here. I come back in with my Barrel because I thought I threw 2 rollouts before swapping out, but that is not the case. The opponent's actually going to outpace me 2 back-to-back charge moves. So at this point, I no-shield. I thought maybe I'd just barely live that, but nope, that is not the case. And unfortunately, they're still going to reach 2 more Leaf Blades up against my Shadow Palkia. I can't really afford to no-shield these, so I am going to double shield here. I'm going to go for the Dragon Breath farm down. The opponent swaps into their final Pokemon, a Lantern, and I've only got 1 win condition. If the opponent, for whatever reason, chooses to no-shield the Draco Meteor, I don't know what their thinking was there behind that play, but either way, I'm able to take advantage, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG so there, into the next battle, we see Lapras in the lead. So, this is a positive matchup for me, unless they're running Skull Bash, in which case, actually, Lapras probably wins that matchup. But either way, they swap into a Tropius now. Kind of forced to just stay in this matchup here, but because I've got such a huge energy advantage, it's honestly not that bad for me. Of course, Rollout going to hit for super effective damage. Hyper Fang going to do decent damage as well. I'm going to shield here as the opponent does go for a Leaf Blade straight away. And then I'm going to try and swap and catch the Leaf Blade, but the opponent, very smart there, realizing I'd either throw on CMP if they'd lose anyways, or I would try and swap and make a catch there. So they hold onto the energy, they fire off the Aerial Ace, and now they can come in with a Mantine. They can just no-shield this Grass Knot if they want to, and go for a full wing attack farm down, coming up with so much energy. I'm just barely not able to reach a foul play before going down. So at this point, we do have a Hyper Fang loaded on Bibarel, so I'm just going to throw this straight away. However, if the opponent chooses to shield here, I can't really afford to shield. So what I'm actually going to do is swap into my Shadow Palkia. I'm not sure if that was the right play there, but either way, Aerial Ace are going to do quite a lot of damage, and I'm forced to shield the next charge move. But now the opponent can just come in with their Lapras, a few more Psy Waves, and they're able to reach an Ice Beam. And of course, Ice Beam easily taken out the Shadow Palkia. We can come back in with Bibarel, and I do reach a last-second Hyper Fang. But the game is done at this point. Hyper Fang is actually not going to be enough damage to get the KO anyways, and the opponent wins that game with all 3 Pokemon still in play. So GG top end there, into the next battle, we see Credilli in the lead once again. So I'm going to play this out exactly the same here, and we are going straight for the Surf. So Surf, of course, we've seen sometimes it is shielded, sometimes it's not shielded. Either way, I'm happy to no-shield this charge move from the opponent, and again, going to be swapping straight away into that Pumpkaboo. Again, we go straight for foul play here, winning CMP once again. I feel like I'm playing out the exact same matchup, and the opponent is actually going to use a shield here. At this point, don't really mind that. I kind of need shield advantage for Shadow Palkia to be effective in the back, and the opponent comes in with a Fire Fang Shadow Marwile. They get the full Fire Fang farm down, but actually, that's perfectly fine with me. I can now come in with my Shadow Palkia, and despite the fact that they triple resist the Dragon Breath damage, I'm also double resisting the non-stab Fire Fangs. I do correctly shield up an Iron Head, which is resisted, however, would do quite a lot of damage in this matchup, and now I can fire off an Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail gets the KO from this range. I do also overfarm a bit in this matchup, so let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to come in with a Tropius, and I'm going to wait for the opponent to try and make a catch there. Perfect for me, and now I'm actually going to bank all of this energy. I thought maybe I'd reach a Hyper Fang, but that is not the case. I'm forced to settle for a Surf. Surf is going to be no-shielded. That is the correct play on the opponent's end, as of course they do know I've got a Draco Meteor loaded, but at this point it doesn't really matter. I farm up 2 back-to-back Aqua Tails. First one grabs the final shield, and the Dragon Breath damage puts them into an Aqua Tail range for the second Aqua Tail when it does connect to take out the Tropius, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to there, into the next battle, we see a Jellicent in the lead. So this is a fine matchup for me. Of course, I'm going to resist everything they can possibly throw, but I do also have resisted charge moves myself. So what I probably will do is fire off one Surf and then eventually swap out of this matchup here. Maybe could have swapped here trying to catch the charge move, but I realized if the opponent overfarms, that is quite risky for me. So instead, we fire off the Surf. I can still live this Surf very comfortably on my Bibarel, and then I will eventually swap into my Pumpkaboo. But the opponent comes in with a Shadow Alert of Ninetales, and as soon as they came in here with the Ninetales, I was thinking, oh, it's going to be a double fairy backline, isn't it? So at this point, I am going to shield. I'm going to look to grab a shield back from the opponent or do big damage with the Grass Knot. The opponent does use their shield there. They can out overfarm just a little bit, fire off the charge move, but at this point, it's not looking too good for me. The opponent goes for the Weather Ball, taking us out. I'm not going to overfarm by too much. I just go for a single rollout, fire off the Surf. Surf gets the KO. I'm going to swap out straight away, and it is a second fairy type. And at this point, there's just nothing I can do here. I'm going to go and fire off the Aqua Tail, but the opponent can just correctly shield up the Aqua Tail and go for a huge Fairy Wind farm down, coming out with so much loaded energy. I've got a shield, but there's no point in using it. The opponent goes for Sludge, taking out the barrel, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there. Into the next battle, see a Gastrodon in the lead. So I'm going to stay in this matchup here. Of course, Pumpkaboo has a great matchup up against Gastrodon, resisting everything they can possibly throw. But that's fine. I'm going to go for a Surf. The opponent actually uses a shield there. And my thinking is that the opponent's going to be running the Gastrodon, a double Fairy Steel backline. So it kind of makes sense for them to shield the Bibarel, because Bibarel is actually kind of problematic for their backline. But at this point, I'm happy to get a shield advantage. They come in with an Astonished Klefki, and realizing if it's Fire Fang Marwile, I'm fine with them coming in with the Klefki here. We go for the Grass Knot, and at this point I'm definitely going to use a shield. The opponent goes for foul play there. I'm now going to commit to a... No, never mind, I'm not going to commit to a farm down. Not quite going to get that farm down. Instead, firing off the foul play straight away. The opponent comes in with the Fire Fang Marwal, and at this point it's looking pretty good for me. The opponent just goes for a power punch here, maybe looking to kill the Switch Clock, and then come back in with their Gastrodon, but it just doesn't matter. I can just safely shield this up. They're going to give me a nice Dragon Breath farm down here to come out close to back-to-back Aqua Tails. We fire off the first one after a single Dragon Breath, making sure to throw on good timing. It grabs the final shield from the opponent. I can go for 3 more Dragon Breaths, fire off Aqua Tail number 2, and that does big damage to the Marwal. I'm able to Dragon Breath farm them down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG top on there, into the next battle, see Credilli in the lead once again. So, probably going to play this out exactly the same as previous times, just go straight for the surf there. But the opponent actually this time opts for an extra bullet seed. So, the first time, they haven't just gone straight for that Rock Tomb. And as a result, I think, you know what, they might just go for a Grass Knot here. So, I'm going to shield, and it is the Grass Knot. So, the one time they do actually go for Grass Knot, I am able to call it. But they swap into a Shadow Tentacle. So, I go straight for Hyper Fang, grab a shield from the opponent. Now, I'm swapping into my Pumpkaboo, of course. Going to take neutral damage from the poison here and resisted damage from any Scald that they throw. However, Scald does still do a lot more damage than an Acid Spray, and here I make a pretty critical mistake here. I go for Grass, not expecting the no shield, but the opponent's shields, and because I didn't just go for back-to-back foul plays, I'm only able to reach a single charge move. Now, whether or not a foul play actually got the KO from that range, it doesn't really matter. It would have put them into fast move farm down range for one of my Pokemon, but now, unfortunately, Shadow Palkia taking a lot of damage from those poison jabs, and they've got a Poliwrath in the back. So, of course, if I avoided that fast move pressure from the Tentacle, I'd be in a much better position. But either way, Draco Meteor gets the one-shot. They come back in with their Credilli, and unfortunately, whether they throw or not, I'm just not going to be able to reach a charge move before the opponent can Bullet Seed, farm down the Shadow Palkia, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there, into the next battle, see a Shadow Cacturn in the lead. So at this point, I could throw a Charge Move straight away and grab a Shadow Advantage. However, I'm going to shield myself, look to try and throw it on good timing, but the opponent swaps into Astonish Amoonguss, and this is fine with me. This is finally what we want to see from the barrel. Double resisting the fast move damage. I can now go for a Hyper Fang number 2. Hyper Fang is going to be no shielded by the opponent. If they come back in with the Cacturn, we come in with the Shadow Palkia. We get the full Dragon Breath farm down, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Tentacruel. Now, of course, I'm not quite going to reach a Draco Meteor, but it doesn't really matter at this point. Aqua Tail grabs the shield anyways. They get the Poison Jab farm down. I'm going to wait out my Switch Clock here, come in with a Pumpkaboo, and again, Pumpkaboo, pretty decent matchup here, as of course, I'm going to resist the Acid Spray that they throw. They could be on like Sludge Wave or Blizzard, but no, it is just the Acid Spray, and I'm actually just going to go straight for a Foul Play here. Foul Play is going to do decent damage. It would very nearly KO from that range. And at this point, we are debuffed. I might as well just shield this up. The opponent goes for another Acid Spray there. Doesn't really matter. My win condition is just staying in with the Pumpkaboo. Go for Foul Play number 2. Take another Tentacruel. And I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there, into the next battle, see Galarian Weezing in the lead. So, I'm going to stay in this matchup here. The opponent is going to stay in as well and fire off a charge move after 7 Fairy Winds. The opponent goes for Sludge there, and they're going to snipe with a Shadow Poliwrath, and that is absolutely awful for me. I lose all of that energy. I had back-to-back surfs there as they farm me down, so that is really painful, and that's basically just won them the game. Now, at this point, I'm going to farm up, throw on CMP, and things go from bad to worse as I lose CMP with Pumpkaboo. I did not realize that was going to be the case, and at this point, it's game over. I'm going to undercharge this just to see if there's anything I can possibly do here, and this will allow an Astonish farm down, but Shadow Palkia up against a very healthy Galarian Weezing, there's just nothing I can do there. So really nice play from the opponent, realizing I would look to try and throw it on good timing there, sniping with their Poliwrath, and it does mean they get a very comfortable win. But GG's top there, into the next battle, we see a Tropius in the lead. The opponent's going to say swap into a Shadow Quagsire, and I respond with my Pumpkaboo. Now, the opponent swapping out there in a pretty decent matchup for the Tropius probably means they're running an ABB style team, in which case, maybe I should have come in with my Shadow Palkia here just to make sure I can get my Pumpkaboo aligned to what's probably going to be a Gastrodon in the back. But either way, we're going to reach a last second foul play here. Foul play is going to be no-shielded by the opponent. It really does not do much damage. And then, unfortunately, I get denied there as I come in. Honestly, I see a lot of people complaining about this, not getting the fast move through as they do come in with a new Pokemon after a Pokemon faints. Honestly, on my end, it really rarely happens for me, but unfortunately, it does cost me in this battle. Does it actually mean that I lose the game because of it? I don't think it is the case, but either way, we are going to come in with the Shadow Palkia. I'm going to no-shield as the opponent goes for a body slam there, and the opponent is committing to a full farm down, which does actually allow me to reach the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail going to get the KO from that range. They come back in with the Tropius, and we can see Barrel. Can it get to her last second charge move? The answer is no, unfortunately not, and actually, that single roller not going through does end up costing me the game, assuming a Hyper Fang gets the KO from that range, which it probably would have done, but I'm not actually certain. But either way, GG's to opponent there. Into the next battle, we're going to see the opponent is leading with a Shadow Ferrothorn. So honestly, I did not see many Ferrothorn today at all, which is kind of handy because my team's not that strong against it. The opponent full sends the Outrage there. Not entirely sure if the Octazooka would have got the KO, so just playing it safe on their end, making sure they get the KO. But either way, we come in with the barrel, we go for Hyper Fang. I'm going to swap out straight away into my Palkia, and you can barely even see what the opponent has there because Shadow Palkia is just so massive on the screen. But that is a Gastrodon coming in. Of course, Mud Slaps are chunking. They commit to a farm down, but they don't get there. And now Shadow Palkia able to reach a second Aqua Tail, get the KO, and they've got obviously a Shadow Ferrothorn. Gonna completely wall me, but I've got a 2-shield advantage. So at this point, I'm of course gonna shield the Power Whip here. I'm waiting to see if the opponent is gonna throw another charge move. If they did, I would commit to back-to-back Hyper Fangs, but since it looks like the opponent is committing to a full farm down, I have to settle for back-to-back Surfs. This is resisted damage, but Surf is enough damage to take out the Shadow Ferrothorn, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there, into the next battle to see a Shadow Tentacruel in the lead. So this is, of course, a neutral matchup for me. I do believe with Shadow Tentacruel in the lead, it's going to be like a double grass team with either a Moongus or Cacturn, or maybe something else like a Decidueye or a Shiftry or something like that. Something along those sort of lines. So at this point, I'm going to go for a Hyper Fang. I'm going to swap out there, and unfortunately, I swap at the exact same time. The opponent comes in with a Shadow Cacturn. So not looking too good for me. Foul play is going to be no-shielded. I wanted them to no-shield this because now I can come in with my Shadow Palkia, commit one shield, and then go for a Dragon Breath farm down. Now, it's all up to Shadow Palkia in this battle. We're going to shield up. The opponent full sends a payback there, but it's a Shiftry in the back, so they've got very little fast move pressure. I'm going to shield this. The opponent fires off the Leaf Blade there. They swap back into Shadow Tentacruel, and I'm able to reach an Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail is resisted damage, of course. Aqua Tail is going to grab the final shield, and I'm able to reach another Aqua Tail on the CMP tie here. And Aqua Tail doesn't quite get the KO, which is actually perfect for me, because now, of course, Palkia goes down to the Acid Spray. I come in with the barrel, I get the rollout farm down, and I'm able to reach a last second Hyper Fang up against the Shiftry. Hyper Fang gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there, into the next battle, another Shadow Tentacruel in the lead. So, again, expecting some sort of similar backline to the previous one, which kind of means that Pumpkaboo is a little bit useless here. I don't really know what I want to do with it. Maybe I should just swap out into my Pumpkaboo straight away, preserve the health on the barrel, but either way, I'm not going to do that. The opponent is going to go for Scald. Scald barely doesn't take us out there. But at this point, I've got a shield advantage. I come in with the Pumpkaboo, and the opponent is going to fire off a charge move. And this one, I'm happy to let the move go through. The opponent goes for the Scald there before swapping into a Amoonguss. So I'm going to go straight for Foul Play. Unfortunately, Foul Play really not going to do much damage, even up against a Shadow Amoonguss. I'm going to come in with the Shadow Palkia. I'm hoping I can shield once now. And with that Foul Play chip damage, commit to a full Dragon Breath farm down, and I am able to do exactly that. They come in with a Shadow Tentacruel. I'm going to fire off the Aqua Tail here, and Aqua Tail should be enough damage from this range to get the KO, but they've got Decidueye in the back, and I can go for an Aqua Tail here. Aqua Tail is resisted damage. The opponent does correctly no shield, and whilst Astonish is super effective, they're able to farm me down before I can farm them down, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's on there, into next battle to see a Lapras in the lead. So this is a positive-ish matchup for me. The opponent's going to say swap into a Jellicent, so I'm going to hold on to all of that energy, come in with my Pumpkaboo, and I'm going to shield the first charge move as the opponent does fire off a Surf. Now I'm going to look to overfarm here, throw the Foul Play on the CMP tie. Foul Play is super effective. From this range, it probably does get the KO up against the Jellicent. And this one I'm thinking, if they do full send the Shadow Ball this time around, I should actually be able to commit to a full Astonish farm down before they reach a last second Shadow Ball. Now, I do blind throw the Grass Knot. It backfires as the opponent comes in with a Lurantis, but I will still be able to reach a Foul Play before they can Fury Cut to farm me down. So Foul Play is going to be shielded. They swap out there, banking the charge move. I'm actually going to swap into my Shadow Palkia. Don't really know why I did this at all, actually, so that was kind of a weird play, but Ice Beam nearly gets the one shot. I'm going to come back in with Barrel, and I've got quite a lot of energy already, but what I am going to do is just ensure that I come out with 100 energy out of this matchup here. So the opponent fires off the charge move. It is an Ice Beam. It does slightly more damage than the Sparkling Aria, but either way, I farmed up 2 back-to-back charge moves. It just depends who wins CMP, but actually the opponent goes for an extra Fury Cutter anyway, so I actually don't know if I win CMP in this matchup or not, but either way, Hyper Fang gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to opponent there into next battle, another Lapras in the lead. So once again, going to play out this lead matchup here, expecting the opponent will eventually swap out of this matchup, but no, they don't. They're going to stay in with the Lapras. I'm going for the Hyper Fang, and if they do farm up to the Skull Bash, I've learned from mistakes in a previous video. I'm definitely just going to shield respect the damage anyways, and the opponent does go for a Sparkling Aria. However, this will just be another Sparkling Aria. So at this point, Sparkling Aria does get me very low. Honestly, that is quite impressive from the Lapras there to get me that low with just resisted charge moves, but the opponent makes a really nice play there. They've got double Astonish in the back, but they swap and catch the resisted Hyper Fang onto their Shadow Mawile. Really nice play there. We're now going to go for a Surf. Surf is going to grab the first shield from the opponent. I'm going to come in with my Pumpkaboo, of course. I cannot go for a Dragon Red farm down up against a Shadow Mawile, and I'm hoping that I do correctly call that it's an Iron Head or a Play Rough or something, but they Power Up Punch bait me, boosting up their Astonish damage. They don't get to another charge move. We're going to come in with the Shadow Palkia, and then for whatever reason, the game just completely freezes. And unfortunately for me, it stuck like this for like a few minutes. And when I came back into the game, I had unfortunately just been given a loss there. So hopefully the opponent did actually get credited with a win. I just want to put this battle in just to make sure that people don't think that I've somehow cheated them out of a win there. If they did not get the win, then I apologize, but clearly not my fault. But GG's anyways. Into next battle, I think the final battle of this video, leading into Abomasnow. So actually not that bad for me. I'm going to resist the ice damage. The opponent then swaps into a Tentacle, so I'm going straight for Hyper Fang. Hyper Fang gonna be shielded by the opponent. I'm going to bank another Hyper Fang and then swap into my Pumpkaboo. And once again, they could go for a Blizzard, but the opponent is just going to go for an Acid Spray here. I don't think anyone is running Blizzard in this meta. I'm now going to fire off a Grass Knot on the CMP tie here. Grass Knot does decent damage. The opponent is going to throw straight away. So at this point, of course, I'm going to no-shield again. They go for Scald there. They then snipe with the Abomasnow. I don't think they really needed to do that to give up switch advantage once again. But either way, we're going to come in with the barrel, go straight for Hyper Fang. Hyper Fang going to grab the final shield for the opponent. At this point, I'm definitely just going to save a shield for my Palkia, but the opponent baits there, and I'm able to win CMP with the barrel, going straight for Hyper Fang. Hyper Fang gets the KO from that range. I'm swapping straight away into my Palkia, and all I need to do is ensure the opponent does not make a catch onto their Tentacruel. So I'm definitely going to shield the charge move. It is just a bait with a Surf. It doesn't really matter though. The opponent goes for the catch. It doesn't work out for them, and once again, Shadow Palkia can full send a Draco Meteor, and it easily takes out the Jellicent, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.